I believe we have with us right now Stephen Moore, one of the chief architects of Donald Trump's economic policy, former Trump economic advisor. And Mr. Moore, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure, my friend. And, I was just talking to my audience before you came on, and we've talked about it before. My background is in short selling, so I've been short as I'm rooting for the macros. I feel like there are individual names that it's like shooting fish in a barrel, big mall owners, high-rise commercial property owners, movie theater owners. And this whole COVID thing has really thrown your work and your job into chaos now. What do we look like, from a guy who put this economy together? What do we look like going forward coming out of this?
Well, that's a great question. First of all, thank you for the comments. I mean, we really feel like we had the best economy in 30 years going into, the early months of 2020. Lowest unemployment rate, booming wages, increased GDP at a very nice 3 to 3.5% pace. And then boom, we just get hit by this virus, and it's disrupted everything. So much so, John, that the forecasts now are for this is the last day of the second quarter, June 30th. And it looks like we're going to be down, I'm going to say 30 to 35%. As far as I know, I don't think that's ever happened before, maybe in the very first few months of the Great Depression. So that is a huge amount of ground to be made up, especially when you now have 30 million people unemployed. We're moving ahead a little faster in terms of the schedule of reopenings. And now, of course, that's a little bit in jeopardy with some of these states reversing course. So it's a very tough time to predict the future when you've got at least a dozen states and perhaps as many as 15 to 20 now talking about getting stricter in terms of reopenings.
So we're joined by former Trump economic advisor and one of the architects of the Trump plan, Stephen Moore. Mr. Moore, I know we had a couple minutes there of technical difficulty. Can you hang out with us for one more segment?
Yeah, sure.
Because I want to talk about
please.
Okay, good. Yep. So in our final minute here, and we'll take a quick break, come back with more with Stephen Moore. These presidential campaigns are now, starting to take shape. And just, what do you see a Joe Biden economy looking like?
Well, I think it's a frightful proposition. I mean, if Joe Biden is elected president in November, it'll be because the economy is hobbled. And then you would have a president coming in with a very weak economy who's talking about raising taxes, increasing regulation. And by the way, not raising taxes as they've been raised before, but massive increases. You probably get an increase in energy taxes. You probably see an increase in income tax rates as high as 50 to 60%. You might see a wealth tax. Biden has come out in favor of expanding the payroll tax on much more income. So that will have a significantly negative effect. And by the way, he also wants to reverse the Trump corporate tax cuts, the business tax cuts, which cause so much capital flow in the United States. Right. Then he wants, a Green New Deal. He wants to decapitate our oil and gas industry, which creates 6, 7, 8 million jobs in this country. I think it would be very negative. I think you're potentially looking at a second Great Depression if you put fuel on that fire and then light the match.
Yeah, well, it looks like Joe Biden needs to light a match to get out of his basement at this point. But well, we're going to take
a smart strategy for him is to just simply stay home. Stay out of the public view.
Yep.
But that can't last. I mean, Biden is going to have to, show himself in public and prove that he can put 2 or 3 sentences together. And look, I'm not trying to make fun of him. I mean, old age is a hard thing to deal with.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, quick commercial, come back with more Stephen Moore right after this.